Hello, and welcome our online security course. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Brian. In this course, you can learn how to protect your online identity. You know, most of the scams and the things that happen online are more unknown and behind the scenes. They happen to be on your computer, like spyware or viruses, in those types of forms, like the Heartbleed bug. And if you are not aware of these threats, you cannot protect yourself, and if something happens, you would have simply gone about your day. Think about it. For the past 2 years, the NSA just revealed this. Hackers have been going under the nose of popular websites and stealing information. It's just now it reached to that point that they figured it out how to break into these sites. Think about that. That's scary. At the same time, of course, there are things that you can take control of. You can monitor your credit cards, and you can monitor your things that are around you. Just ensure that nothing suspicious happens. There's no 100% guarantee, but this is definitely closer to protecting yourself than not doing anything at all. Before we get started though, I do have to say a legal disclaimer. Everything in this course is recommendations only, so we are not liable for any actions that you take. Now that we're done with that, let's move on and let's get started. Welcome back to our Lesson 1. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we start, I quickly want to mention that not everything is a scam, so don't freak out. Don't think that everything that you see is going to be a scam. Just be aware of the online threats so that you can be safe. Better be safe than sorry, right? Basically, here's how it all works with this course. You want to figure out where you stand right now, and you want to figure out where you want to be. So obviously, everybody is going to be different. Some of you might already have systems in place to protect yourself, and some of you may not. So just figure out where you stand right now, in terms of security, and where you want to be. Then, as you watch the video lessons, you'll learn a lot of stuff on how to apply that to where you stand now. Keep in mind, in terms of security software, not all security offers are the same, but you kind of want to stick with the mainstream software. I will show you some software that is reputable, and even the ones that we use in our day-to-day business life. Remember, you want to educate yourself and your family through this course. Especially, you'll want to educate your kids who are surfing the web, because certain sites that they visit can bring in spyware and other viruses without them knowing it. Keep an eye out for your updates on the web in terms of what's been happening on the news and things like that. I don't recommend that you sit there all day and just read. You can go about your life, but just keep in mind that you want to keep an eye out on what is happening out in the world. I guarantee you that you will be many steps ahead of everybody else, and less of a target, if you follow all the tips and recommendations we're giving here. So, here are a few things you need. Firstly, you're going to need some money to invest into security software. I'm going to show you some free software that you can use. They are powerful and are still the leading companies in the industry. For some of them, though, you might need to upgrade to the pro version, and it is worthwhile, in my opinion, to secure your site and secure your computers. You're going to have proper knowledge that we're going to teach you, and you're going to need to learn it. But again, just learning doesn't help. You're mainly going to need to apply the knowledge. Otherwise, everything that we teach you is going to be meaningless. With that said, let's jump right in. I'll move on to the next lesson, where you get a step-by-step plan of exactly what to do and what to be aware of in terms of online protection. Hello and welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about Online Protection 101. You've heard that you shouldn't open email attachments or even emails from people that you don't know. However, keep in mind that some of the viruses can attack people that you do know, and you have no idea that the pictures, the family photos that they're sending you are attached with viruses and spyware because their computer got infected. That's what smart hackers began to figure out. They figured out that if you get an email from your family, your loved ones, your husband, your wife, your son, your granddaughter, grandson, and so forth, then you're most likely going to open that email rather than an email from a stranger. Obviously, that is an issue. If you have the proper antivirus software set up, that will be scanning your email attachments, your browsers, and everything you visit in terms of websites. In this case, it will detect if there is a virus or spyware coming through your computer. That's definitely a plus. You can eliminate that by just common sense. If you think, okay, I've got an email from my cousin, but the email doesn't even sound like my cousin from the way that things are worded or the grammar, it is best to just contact them and say, hey, did you send this to me? And verify that before anything happens. Like I said earlier, if you have your entire software set up, then it will scan for these threats. Some free software will do this, and some won't. Sometimes we'll have to upgrade to the Pro version. I'll show you some antivirus software that will help you with this. When we had situations similar in the past, the antivirus software and the spyware software caught it before it did any damage. Another thing I want to mention is that if you are using a program like Outlook Express, Thunderbird, or any other type of email software that sits on your computer that automatically accepts email attachments and opens them up, so you're going to need to have an antivirus system on your computer. Again, if you don't, these types of software will tend to automatically open the email attachment. Then, if you don't have the systems in place to scan these attachments, guess what? You're going to be compromised and have a security breach. That's why I like to stick with web-based email programs like Gmail. Even if you're using sites like AOL or your internet service provider, it's probably better to access the emails by going directly to the website. For example, go to something like mail.yahoo.com or Gmail instead of using a program like Outlook Express, simply because if you go to the email, you're less likely to get a virus. That's especially true if your software will automatically download the email attachments. So, I just want to give you that tip so that you can eliminate threats as much as possible. Another thing I would like to mention is educate your children about downloading. A lot of times, your children will download stuff like free screensavers, free games, free movies, and stuff like that. Remember, free stuff is not always free in the real world. Free stuff always has something attached to it. Big sites like Netflix, Amazon, Crackle, and stuff like that is fine to visit because they're legitimate. Just make sure you do your research and your due diligence beforehand for other sites. Keep in mind, some of these sites will have spyware. If you go to the wrong sites, and a lot of times children or your elderly parents will go to the wrong sites and can download the spyware without knowing it. I'm not targeting a specific group here by saying elderly or young children or whomever. Just in general, you want to make sure that you watch out for free stuff. Having helped tons and tons of people to get rid of viruses, I've found over the years, a lot of hackers tend to focus on the elderly or people that are not suspecting. Just keep that in mind. That's why I'm focusing your attention on specific groups. Even if you're a young person and not really aware of what's going on, free stuff tends to be attached with spyware and other things like that. Not always, but a good majority of it. And again, it may contain viruses, spyware, and so forth. But how can you prevent your children and other people that are using your computer, which you might be using for work, from visiting these kinds of sites? Well, there is a site called covenanteyes.com, and if you are looking specifically for the web content filtering, this will actually filter inappropriate web-based sites based on age and so forth. They provide other stuff, but the main thing that I want you to focus on is web content filtering, because if your children go to, let's say, an inappropriate site, and they don't even know that they're doing that, like they're trying to get free stuff from Wherezy sites or other inappropriate types of sites, then they will probably get some sort of spyware, and you have no idea that it happened until you see your internet browser begins to slow down to a crawl. You start getting all these pop-ups with inappropriate, naughty type stuff, but at that point, it's kind of too late. You need to have the security in place beforehand. Otherwise, your computer is going to go pretty much to a crawl in terms of your internet surfing. Another thing that I would highly recommend is that if you have credit cards you use online, try to create a credit card specifically for online purchases. You can also use what we call prepaid credit cards, so prepaid Visa or prepaid MasterCard, that you can use specifically for online purchases. That way, if something were to happen, it's not going to affect you a whole. It's just going to affect your online stuff. Obviously, you can get your credit card stolen by thieves and other offline people, but that way you can keep track of it online. That's just a recommendation that we want to share with you. Okay, with that said, let's move on to our next lesson, where we'll talk about some antivirus software and firewall software that you can use right away to protect yourself and your computer. Today, let's talk about firewalls and antivirus software. In the context that I'm speaking of, these are two different things. The purpose of an antivirus software is to detect viruses that might be coming in through email attachments or viruses that might be coming through other sites that you visit in real time. That's when antivirus offers are most effective. A lot of times, we see companies bundle antivirus software and firewall spyware all into one big package. In the reality, you need to segment them and figure out what is this company really good at. Specific companies are really good at firewalls, some are really good at viruses, and some are really good at spyware. With the experience that we have while dealing with all of this different software companies, we found that if you find software that focuses specifically on one area and another one on another area, then that's actually better. For example, Zone Alarm is a firewall system, and they've been around for many years. It is a firewall software. From all the different firewall software that we've used, I found that Zone Alarm tends to be the best. The way the firewall acts in this case is it monitors every time you have software, maybe your antivirus software, or even another software that you downloaded onto your computer that's trying to access the internet. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up in the air. If you think about it, with some software, they're trying to access the internet because they need to, but some software should not be accessing the internet. If a software has been downloaded and it doesn't need to access internet by its nature and it is doing so, think about it. Maybe that's a way for them to send the data back to the hacker or to the prying eyes that should not be prying on your computer. That's the reason for a firewall to act. Firewall enables you to block incoming and outgoing traffic. If sites might be trying to access your computer, it'll let you know. Or if some software is trying to access the internet, then Zone Alarm will let you know. If you go to zonealarm.com, you'll actually see that they do provide other things, like antivirus programs and so forth. But their main priority, or what I found over the years is their main expertise, has been firewalls. You can actually download the free version right here. They have free antivirus plus firewall, but in my experience, just their firewall itself is good enough. One thing you'll find is that when you begin to install antivirus software, spyware software, firewall software, and tons of other software, you will notice a slowdown over your computer. Keep in mind that all of this software is analyzing everything that is happening on your computer, so it will slow your computer down a little bit. That's why I would say you don't want too much software that are analyzing your computer. So, stick with firewalls, stick with antivirus software, and stick with a company that focuses on spyware. Here's what I like about Zone Alarm. Let me open right up. As you can see, I'm using the free firewall here, and you can see that I'm protected in terms of a firewall, identity, and data. If I click on View Details, you can actually see what applications have possibly been blocked due to dangerous behaviors. And I can always click on those to unblock them if I want to. You can also block specific software, zones, and things like that. So I can see the outgoing and the incoming data. I can see what kind of IP addresses could be trying to come into my computer and go out of my computer. Keep in mind, this is just a firewall that sits on an individual computer. You'll still need to be connected to a router that is secure and has a firewall as well. That's something that your internet company is most likely going to set up for you. Here, we're just dealing with computer security. You can also look at the other options that they provide, but you just want to make sure that you understand and definitely want to have a firewall, whether it's Zone Alarm or another reputable software. Before buying a software, make sure you do your due diligence. So go on Google and type something like Zone Alarm Reviews. Obviously, you're going to get some people that will have complaints and some people with positive reviews. But overall, you want to look for a company that is reputable enough and are getting in majority positive reviews. Now, let's talk about antivirus software. There's one particular software that I'd highly recommend, and it is called Avast. Avast is free. There is an upgraded version, but Avast, in my opinion, is one of the leading antivirus software companies, and there are a lot of ones that cost money. We like Avast because it actually scans in real time. There are other types of antivirus software out there, like McAfee or Kaspersky, but Avast proved to be really good over the years. They also have 3 different versions here. The free version, as you can see, scans for viruses, spyware, and so forth. It has generalized malware protection. It's mainly these 2 that you need. If you want to have it, for example, scanning emails and other things like that, you will want to upgrade to the Premier version. I would say it is worth the investment. As you can see, I have it on my own computer right now, and it scans real time. So, if I'm surfing on the internet and I happen to come across spyware from a specific site, like a free screensaver site or any other free site, it will scan that site, and if it has a virus, it will tell me. It will actually remove it right away. That's what you want. They also have a system that will integrate into your browser, so it's one step further. Upgrading or not is up to you. What I recommend that you do is just get Avast and download the free version. Check it out, and if you really like it, you can go ahead and upgrade to their other versions. What I like about the Premier version, which is what I have, is you can actually do a quick scan. You can do a full scan too. You can clean up your browser from lots of toolbars and where unneeded spyware tends to go. Spyware is a different type of virus. They are both forms of unwanted or malicious software, sometimes called malware. Spyware collects information about you without appropriate notice and consent. A computer virus spreads software, usually malicious in nature, from computer to computer. So, as you can see, spyware is not really a virus, so you need to understand the difference, and you need to understand why you need a spyware protection software that's focused on only spyware. Avast is very good for viruses. With that, let's move on to the next lesson, where we talk about spyware and malware in detail. Welcome back. Now, let's talk about spyware. The way spyware works is it gets onto your computer and it basically spies on you. It looks at all the websites you visit, what you do on your computer, what you type into your computer. It spies on the mouse, clicks, and so forth. Imagine going to a financial bank site, filling in your username and password, and that information being sent to the spyware hackers themselves. That's what spyware is. Spyware can do a lot of other things. It can hijack your browser. One of the symptoms that you might face is very slow internet surfing. For example, you go to the browser, whether it's Google Chrome or Firefox, and it hijacks your host file, which is part of your computer. Basically, then your host file talks to your internet browser, and if it hijacks it, it can hijack your homepage. So every time you type something up at the top, or you go to your homepage, it goes to a different page. There are other symptoms besides just the spying itself. There are 2 different software that I'd highly recommend that you get started with. The first one is located at safer-networking.org, and that software is called Spybot. There is a free version and there is a pro version that you can upgrade to, and there is a business version too. If you go to the downloads here, you can actually download it for free, as you can see here. You can upgrade to the professional version and go from that point on. I always recommend starting with the free edition. If you like it, then you can upgrade. If you don't really like Spybot, you can always use a different program. But Spybot was one of the first ones that was free. They are also the first few anti-spyware types of software that ever created. The second software, which is one of the leading anti-spyware software, is called SpySweeper. SpySweeper was created by Webroot, and they recently integrated their SpySweeper suites and their antivirus suites together into one. They are really well known for their anti-spyware software. This was actually free back in the day, and it is really good because it really allows you to protect yourself from spyware hijacking your entire browser. It lets you know if it hijacks it, and then it quarantines the spyware as you're surfing online. You can head on over to webroot.com and you'll actually see that SpySweeper is part of their antivirus software. I have it on my computer right now, and what I like about this is it actually tells you, for example, if threats are detected on your computer. you'll need to scan your computer then. I generally scan it about once a week. Click on Scan My Computer, and you can also have other options. It offers real-time scanning. It's got a firewall in it. It's got other types of stuff like identity protection and things like that. So, those are the two software programs that I would highly recommend that you start with. WebRoot does cost money. It is not free, but it is well worth the investment. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to create a spreadsheet to basically centralize and organize your passwords. This video isn't necessarily related to protecting yourself. Rather, it's just about keeping an eye on your passwords and where they are. If something happens, like the Heartbleed bug or anything like that, where your passwords are compromised, then you can update them quickly and easily. This way, if something happened to you, then your loved ones will also have access to your passwords as well. It just makes everyone's life easier. That's the reason why you want to have a spreadsheet. Now, I'm going to go through and show exactly how to create this spreadsheet. Up at the top, you want to type in site name, and I'm going to make this bigger so that you can see it. We're going to have site name here. And then you're going to have a username, password, and the site's link to change the password. I will explain what I mean in just a second. You're going to have username and password, and then you're going to have email associated with the account. So for example, the site name would be something like Yahoo email. We're going to say Yahoo email here. I'll make this bigger as well. The link to change password is merely the link that goes straight to wherever you can change your Yahoo email password. It's not necessarily the link where you log in. It's a link where you change your password. So anytime that you get a password security breach, you can always go back to the link and change your password with a click of a button. Then, of course, you type in your username, yourname@yahoo.com, and then the password. When you do create a password, don't use the same password for all. Use something that has letters, numbers, and symbols, but you want to keep it short and sweet so that you might remember it. Keep in mind that some sites will only accept at least 6 characters and then up to 10. Some will allow you to do as many characters as you want, but it just needs to follow some sort of pattern or something that you would be familiar with. I mean, if you use your grandson's name or your spouse's name, then make sure you mix it up. Let's say, for example, the name is Bob. Instead of typing B-O-B, you could type B0B, so you have a number and a letter in it. Then, you can maybe add some numbers and some symbols. It makes it harder for somebody to guess. Frankly speaking, most people, when they create a password, are going to call it a dog's name like Sparky. If the hacker is something like a software that basically guesses your password, ultimately, you're going to figure out Sparky, and then the email associated with that account if you have several different emails. So, if I'm going to go here and reset password, then the password email will be sent to this email address. Then, of course, if anything were to happen, you could always contact the company and say, this email is associated with this account, and I'm unable to log in. Can you help me? They'll be able to see that email is associated with that account. So if Heartbleed bug type of thing happens, you can always go and change it. At the same time, you should be changing your passwords frequently. The Heartbleed bug is a serious vulnerability in the popular OpenSSL cryptographic software library. This weakness allows stealing the information protected under normal conditions by the SSL or TLS encryption used to secure the internet. So, now all you have to do is go to the spreadsheet and click on the link, and you're good to go. Once you have all the passwords listed out, then in the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to centralize them in your browser. For example, if you go to your browser, your Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, or Firefox, and you click on the software, it will actually allow you to go to the site and log in immediately using your username and password. So that's what I mean by that. It basically allows you to centralize all your passwords in one location that is encrypted, and then you have easy access to all of your passwords. And you don't have to remember which passwords belong to which site. Let me move on to the next video, and we'll show you how to use this free piece of software to encrypt your passwords and centralize everything together, thereby making it easier for you to operate. Welcome back. Today, let me quickly show you something that will make you rethink saving your passwords in your internet browser. For example, this issue generally can happen if somebody has physical access to your computer and you don't really have a password associated with your account on your Windows, or if somebody else has access to your computer, has logged in, and they go to your Google Chrome browser. As you can see here, what I've done is I've typed the words Chrome://settings/passwords. When I click on enter, I get this pop-up box. As you can see here, you can't really see my passwords, but you can see some of these as shown the link. It also shows the username and password. The thing is, you can't really see the password unless you click on it. You click on show, and you type in the password to the user account that is associated with a Windows account. So, how do you combat this? Well, I'm going to show you in the next video how to do that. In this video, I just wanted to show you the concept on how easy it is to access your browsers and gain access to your passwords. Hello and welcome back. Today, I'm going to be talking about a site called LastPass.com. There is a free version and there is a premium version, but the free version will pretty much do what you need it to do. Basically, this system saves all of your passwords in a specific, centralized location on LastPass.com, and it encrypts it. Even though you have a list of all your passwords in your spreadsheet, you can easily access LastPass through your browser, so that your passwords are not saved inside your browser, but are instead saved on super encrypted servers. You might be thinking, well, is it really safe to put your password on LastPass? I would say yes. Even with the Heartbleed bug issue in the past, LastPass was affected with it too, but none of the passwords were hacked. That's the beauty of it. LastPass is actually quite good. Of course, if you want to do your own due diligence, go on Google and find some reviews on LastPass as well. LastPass has a free version, and they also have a premium version where you can actually access your LastPass account through your iPhone, iPad, Androids, and your other mobile devices. It allows you to access your other sites and keep those passwords for those sites in a centralized location, so everything is easy to access. Another thing about LastPass that I like is if you do purchase their premium version, they have a system that will tell you if a site you use gets hacked. For example, Adobe was hacked a few months ago. When we signed up for the premium for LastPass, it actually told us, hey, your email has been detected as one of the emails that was hacked, so make sure you go change your password for the site. That was awesome. They have monitoring systems set up to notify you of such breaches. It'll also notify you if your password is too weak. If you're using duplicate passwords, it'll give you suggestions on how to secure your passwords further. That way, you don't have to do research and you don't have to figure out how to protect yourself further. They also have more multi-factor authentication options. What that means is that, besides the fact you log into LastPass, they also have other options where you can have 2 steps. A lot of banks use these type of options so that in order to log into your account, you have to have a secondary way of getting in, and they provide those secondary ways to get in. In fact, my LastPass right now is connected to my biometrics, which is my fingerprint for my ThinkPad. My ThinkPad actually has a biometric scanner, so it will only allow me to get in it by detecting my fingerprint. I mean, how cool is that, right? Some of you will not have the biometric scanners on your computer, but they also provide other types of 2-step authentication, like USB hard drives that you have to plug into your computer in order to get in. So, this is very high-level security. Just to show you how cool this is, if you log into a site like Microsoft Office Online 365, you can actually create an account. You click this little star here, and you can click on Save Site, and it allows you to organize which folders you want to put them in. You can put them in your personal folders, work folders, or business folders, and you can also generate complex passwords as well. As you can see here, if you click on Use Password, it'll actually use that password and save that password. You can even change the password length to be something like, we'll say, 30 characters. Of course, once you've generated the password for that account, you can also use LastPass to remember your email and password as well. This way, every time you log into the site, LastPass will remember it. Wherever you log into LastPass, whether it be your mobile phone, your iPad or iPhone, or something else, you can easily log in. I will admit that one area that I do shy away from is my banking and financial systems. All of those are on my spreadsheet. They're not anywhere near LastPass. I tend to stick with the general passwords, and that's just my preference. You can do whatever you want to. Just to give you kind of a view of what LastPass looks like, if you click on this icon, which will be installed on your internet browser, you can actually search for sites that you have added to the LastPass vault. You can see the sites, and as you can see, I've got different folders here. You can create form files, which are basically personal profiles that include your name, email, contact information, and so forth. That way, when you have to fill out forms and create an account on a specific site, you have everything centralized in the LastPass vault. This is the premium version, so keep that in mind. Even the free version has allowed a lot of this setup though. I definitely highly recommend that you go ahead and get LastPass, and if you're satisfied with it, go to the premium versions. I believe it's $12 a year as of now. Of course, that could change in the future. What I also like about it is it keeps you updated with what's happening on the internet in terms of security breaches. It talks about Heartbleed, what you can do to resolve it, and how you can go about doing that. If you really want to stay ahead of the game in terms of online security and protecting yourself, then this will be a great place to come. Let's talk about a few things that are a little bit more advanced. For example, how to protect yourself as you surf online. The first thing you want to do is if you are entering sensitive data into a forum or anything like that, make sure that the site is reputable. You know whether a site is reputable is simply by going to Google and doing the research on that specific site. If the site is not reputable, then sometimes you'll notice that because your antivirus software will actually tell you if the site has viruses on it or things like that. If you're using Google Chrome, Google will let you know as well. If you are entering sensitive data, you want to make sure that at the very top, you have the HTTPS over here. Obviously, with the Heartbleed bug, even if it's an HTTPS, there are ways around it. Now, lots and lots of companies are looking into the Heartbleed bug and trying to develop a system so this does not happen to them. As I mentioned before, Heartbleed bug is a security bug in the OpenSSL cryptography library. Moving on a little more advanced things, there are things called VPNs. The way VPNs work is you log into a VPN, and it will basically encrypt and secure your privacy. VPNs are great, especially if you are surfing on a Wi-Fi channel, a free Wi-Fi channel. A lot of times, people don't realize this, but if you're at Starbucks, for example, then remember somebody else is also surfing on Starbucks. Most likely, Starbucks has protection for their Wi-Fi network. However, if you happen to join a Wi-Fi network that you have no idea about security-wise, there could be a hacker on the other end of the same network, easily logging into your system and getting to your information. That's something that most people don't realize is happening. The way you can fight that and combat it is by joining a site like this that has a VPN service. Apart from that, there are other benefits to VPNs. As you can see here, VPNs prevent your ISP, which is your internet service provider, from monitoring and controlling your online communications and browsing activity. The way it works is you log into the VPN and then log into the server of these sites. So that sites like your internet service provider and companies like that really cannot monitor what you are doing because, to be honest, everything you do can be monitored. Of course, in general, you protect your IP address, which is the computer IP, the number that is associated with your computer. In fact, every time you visit a site, people know your IP address. In other words, they know exactly where you're located because every computer is connected to an IP address. So, you can imagine Big Brother could easily spy on you without you knowing. Or, anybody else could easily find your IP address and find a lot of information about you. They could find other information like the browser you're using, the IP address, where you are located, and things like that. That's the beauty of using a VPN service that hides your IP. There are many different VPN services. There's one that's goldenfrog.com. They run a VPN. Another good one is recommended by PC Editor's Choice, and it's called privateinternetaccess.com as well. Unfortunately, with VPNs, the good VPNs cost money. You do have to pay some money up front, but a lot of them can be fairly cheap. They are usually anywhere from $6 to $10 a month. There are also other services called HMA. If you go to hidemyip.com, you'll notice that we have VPN here, and you can change your proxy, which is your IP address. Remember, a proxy server acts as a gateway between you and the internet. For something totally different, you also have anonymous email, which is free. You have other privacy software as well, as you can see here. This is another software that is very useful. Today, let's talk about phishing and how you can spot phishing and protect yourself. Generally speaking, you will be able to figure out that the email that you receive, the phone call that you receive, or whatever communication, even mail, that you receive is phishing. Let me explain to you what phishing is all about. For those of you who don't know what phishing is, let's say, for example, that you use eBay, and then you get an email that says you have violated eBay's terms and conditions. You see, generally the email starts out with something that is trying to strike fear into you by saying you did something wrong. In reality, what you're trying to do is to get you to click on the link and get you to log into a fake site where they basically can figure out your username and password and or any other information that you might have. Phishing was very popular back in the day, and I still remember receiving an email from eBay saying I violated the seller policies. At that time, I still remember selling on eBay and thinking, oh no, what did I do that was wrong? I don't think I did anything wrong. But you know what? I almost clicked on the link and almost logged in. If you look carefully at the email, generally speaking, your first clue is that the email is not written well. There will be a lot of spelling mistakes or a lot of grammatical errors. Number two, if you click on the link and it doesn't say ebay.com, but instead says something like www.xyz.com/ebay, that's a sign. That's where a lot of people get you. If you don't look at the link that you click or look at the link itself before you click it, then that can be problematic. So, I've gone to Google and went to their images section just to pull up some examples of phishing emails. A lot of times, as you can see here actually, you probably won't be able to see this because it's kind of blurry. The link itself says ebay.com. If you hover over the link, you'll actually be able to see whether that link is truly to ebay.com. I don't recommend you click on it because it could have spyware, but let me give you an example here. If I'm using an internet browser and I go to Google and hover over any link, you're able to see the link change in the bottom left-hand corner. So, even though it might say speedtest.net here, if you look down in the bottom left-hand corner, that is the actual link. Even though the link says ebay.com, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go to ebay.com. The way you can tell the real true link is by looking at the bottom left-hand corner. So, if you are suspicious of the email that you received, highlight the link and look at the bottom left-hand corner. If it does not say ebay.com or whatever your bank site is, it's probably a phishing email. That's something that you can look for. Another thing to look for is if the links look something like this. For example, we have this nationwide email phishing right here. The links don't actually show the URL, but if you hover over with the mouse here, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner that this is actually an image, so it's not a link. But if you hover over it and you don't see nationwide.com, but instead see something like nationwide.xyz.com, then it is a phishing email. Generally speaking, most people are not going to ask for sensitive information if they already have it. So that's another thing to look for. Those things, generally speaking, are great ways to figure out if the email is trying to phish for your sensitive data. Another thing to look for is on the website. This is a good example here. For example, with Facebook, a lot of these phishing sites will try to mimic the way that the site looks like. So, even though it looks like Facebook, if you look at the top of the URL at the top and it doesn't say facebook.com, then it's most likely a phishing site. Looking at the URL is key. Looking at another phishing email, as you can see, there are a lot of spelling errors. links, email threats, and accusations that you did this or that. People could call you on the phone and do the same thing. They can threaten you and say, hey, you have done this and you have done that. Make sure that you say, okay, if you're truly that company, can you give me some information about me? Keep in mind that some of these phishing companies will have information about you. The best thing you can do is say, I'll call you back if you give me your number. Then you call a verified number for whatever it is, such as your bank. You call the bank and say, is this a legitimate number? If it is a legitimate number, you can call the original number back. I just want to say congratulations. You've reached the end of this video course. Today, what I want to do is just talk briefly about what to do if your identity has been stolen. Its procedure can vary from country to country, but for the most part, you want to file a police report. That way you have a copy of it. If anything were to happen, and especially if somebody uses your information offline, then you can always have that as a copy. Next, you want to report it to the FTC, or your country's Consumer Protection Agency. The FTC would be for the USA. If you're in the UK or Australia, you want to find your country's Consumer Protection Agency and report it to them, whoever that might be. Again, this might be different from country to country, but especially in the USA, if you put a fraud alert on your credit, you basically have to call your credit agency in your country. Then basically what happens is they might force anybody who looks at your credit to verify with you by calling your phone number, confirming that you have done something related to your credit, like opening bank accounts, mobile accounts, or anything related to it. Keep in mind that by doing so, it's going to make it extremely hard for you or anybody else to do anything related to your credit. They really have to go through a lot of other red tape in order to buy a car, open a bank account, or create a credit card. It's worth it in the end though, because if somebody does that, they're going to say, okay, this person is just too hard. There's a lot of red tape involved. I'm just going to skip to the next person. You're likely to be less of a target afterwards. So, hopefully you've gotten a lot out of this video course. Make sure that you apply all that you have learned and take the proper action. I do want to repeat again that this course will not 100% guarantee your protection, but it definitely be a step towards it. I would say that the majority of people don't even think about this basics until something bad happens to them. So, congratulations, I guess this is it. We've covered a lot in this course, and hopefully you've enjoyed it and would give us a thumbs up. Thank you for completing this course, for taking the proper action, and being proactive about your security. Goodbye for now.